to Connect with Christina and join me for this exciting episode with my friend, attorney Amara Edblad. I had to practice that one, Edblad, with Amara and Associates. Obviously, you're well-known, loved, respected. So today we get to peel the onions around this. I'm going to start with your crazy, amazing education that I recently just learned. So now I have further questions. First of all, how long have you been an attorney and what made you start this path to begin with? And then I'm going to dive into your education. I didn't know all that.
So I've been an attorney in Arizona since 2011, so I guess 14 years now. I'm also licensed in Pennsylvania and Jersey, just for fun. I actually always wanted to be a lawyer. I found some old homework of mine from like kindergarten where I wrote attorney for like what I wanted to be in the future.
You need to frame that. Oh my gosh.
I was obsessed with Law and Order as a kid and still am, so that kind of helped. But I initially wanted to go into entertainment law, and that was what I planned on doing with my life. Paths diverted a little bit. I ended up falling in love in Arizona and staying here, so ended up in the personal injury sphere.
But the education, ladies and gentlemen, so walk me back to that part of your life, like, college and all the things that led you to now.
Yeah. So I went to a program in high school called the International Baccalaureate Program at North High. And through that, I was able to get a full ride to University of Southern California. I initially went there intending to study pharmacy. But that did not work out. So I switched to just purely just history. On a whim, I applied to the film school there, film production program, and I got
on a whim, guys.
So I dual majored in history and cinema production at USC. And then when I ended up graduating a year early, but I had a full ride for 4 years. So I used the extra year to go to Cambridge University in England for a summer program, and then London School of Economics for a year to continue studying both law and history there.
No big deal, right? That's phenomenal. Wow. And you lived, no wonder you were like, when I started traveling to Europe, you're like, I got you.
Yes. Yeah.
So that part of your life, how has that affected who you are now? I mean, probably largely.
Yeah. I mean, so the cinema part of things, I mean, it gives me a different understanding of or view of the world, really, from both a pragmatic point of view and also kind of a more artistic point of view. So I think that translates to how I handle cases a little bit differently because I think outside the box.
Interesting.
Quite a bit. And I use a lot of visuals in my demands and things with insurance companies to really articulate to them and demonstrate to them what the injuries are that my clients have sustained. I also obviously fell in love with travel. I try to still explore the world. And through that, you get to know a lot of different types of people, understand their backgrounds, and understand that everyone comes at the world from a different perspective and place. And so that, I think, gives me a different level of empathy towards my clients and understanding their specific circumstances because I have met people from all over the world.
Did you dive right into PI, though, right after that? Or how did that work out?
So after I graduated from ASU for law school, I initially started in debt collection.
Oh, my gosh.
Which was not my passion at all. I did not like taking money from the small guys to give to the big companies, but it was 2011. It was a recession. So I took the job that I could get, and there were some really good positives that came out of that. My first day being licensed as an attorney, I had a bench trial in Tucson. So I had to get very comfortable in court very quickly, think on my feet. It also gave me really good negotiation skills, since that's really all I was doing was negotiating debts for people with my clients, the debt collection companies. But I quickly realized that was not where any passion lie. And so I got a job at a boutique personal injury firm that's no longer around. And And after about a decade there, I started my own company and have translated all of my skills into that.
Yeah, and big, big, big congratulations.
Thank
we
you.
all knew you were going to do well, and you're not doing well. You're doing extremely well. And I know that you're regarded as a very different attorney in the way that you really try to take care of your clients and also the people that take care of your clients, like the providers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So one, we always try to fight for full compensation on a case. Because we are small, we're able to devote a lot of one-on-one, hands-on to each case and each client. And so we don't take the first offer. We're willing and able to litigate a lot more cases than most firms are willing to. We litigate about 25 to 30% of our cases. And in doing that, the insurance companies have realized that I am not going to accept anything less for my clients than top dollar. So we are able to get very good results for our clients, better than a lot of other firms, I think, see from what I've heard. And we also believe that if we're getting those results based on the medical care that the client received, the doctor should be paid for the work that they did and the months or sometimes years that they gave that interest-free loan for that care to the patient. Personal injury sphere is really the only place in America you're going to find care for free on an interest-free loan. And that's a lot of risk to the doctors to take. Mm-hmm. So we understand that and we respect that. And it's because of their hard work that we're able to get the results for the clients that we need.
Can you talk more about the LOP or what that means so that other people can understand? I mean, they don't know what, because remember, for us, we find like people, even when they're hurting, they are just so scared to hire a lawyer because right away in their brain, I have to pay for that lawyer. I can't afford it. Oh, I'm hurting, but I can't afford this doctor. So can you share some on that?
Yeah,
subject?
Absolutely. So with most law firms that practice personal injury, our fee is contingent on the recovery that we get for our clients. So we are incentivized to get the maximum dollar because whatever we settle for, we get roughly a third of that settlement. The providers who treat on an accident lien or a letter of protection are able, through those documents, through the legal means, to secure the debt that the client has incurred with them against the future settlement proceeds. The liens do not attach to the client personally. They only attach to the future settlement monies from the insurance company.
Big one, guys.
So that's, I know it's scary. We see a lien, it gets recorded, and you think it's against your house or your car. It's not. It's against the future settlement money we're going to get from State Farm or Geico or Progressive or whoever. So that's important to understand. And again, ultimately, talking to a lawyer in this sphere is free. It doesn't hurt. At the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know until you talk to somebody and see if they can help you. And you have to find the right lawyer for you. Not everyone's going to be a good fit with each other, and I understand that. There's a lot of fish in the sea that we practice in, and some people are going to be better suited with somebody else, and I just hope that I can do the best for the clients who do choose me.
And then for clients who are, really the first in their mind is, I don't want a lawyer. That's bad karma. What do you say to people like that?
So I totally understand that. First of all, when you hire a lawyer, you're not immediately going into a lawsuit. All you're doing is making a claim against the insurance company. We all spend tons of money a year for these insurance premiums. It just makes sense to utilize that premium that you've paid for, that the other driver, who through no intentional fault typically, caused you damage. It's the insurance company's money. You're not taking away from the person who hit you. You're just collecting from the insurance pool that you've put all this money and time into over the years. You're getting that back.
And then to those people that, and I know you've encountered this, because obviously in our hearts, we just want to help them. My position in Connect with Christina now is to find them what you just said, like not any lawyer, but one that fits what they're looking for or whatever. One that likes lawyering, does, like have integrity and do the right thing, not just an amazing ad. But to those who are like, no, my insurance adjuster is super nice, I'm just going to let him handle that. What do you say to that?
So unfortunately, that is what they're trained to do. The insurance adjusters, while they are obligated to take care of you to a certain extent, they really answer to their shareholders. And their metrics are guided by how many cases can they get settled as quickly as possible for the least amount of money. And that's their goal, is to essentially, unfortunately, kind of trick their insureds into accepting, or their claimants into accepting, the least settlement possible to close that file so they get their bonus at the end of the month or the quarter. And so they're really not there looking out for you. They're looking out for themselves. And they know a lot of tactics, unfortunately, to make it seem like they're on your side.
And hopefully it's okay for me to share this, but in my own brain, just like we help a lot of single dads, single moms, well, adjusters sometimes are also single moms and single dads, and they too just have a job. And unfortunately, they're on that side, but they're just also trying to do their job. And I think it helped me understand that too. Like, it's not personal. It's just, unfortunately, your job is to, help your clients and get the most for them. And then their job is to get as little as possible. Is that right?
Exactly.
So, and then have you ever encountered a client where they're calling you and saying, hey, they already put money in my bank account? Have you ever had that happen?
We have, and that's becoming more and more common. We always look at, what is the money for? Because there are different types of claims. There's the bodily injury claim, there's a property damage claim, and there's also medical payments coverage. So depending on why that money was paid, there may or may not actually be a settlement on the bodily injury portion of the claim. Also, just because they put money in your account doesn't mean that they have a valid settlement agreement. So we are willing to always talk to you and figure out what actually happened, and if it's too late to reopen it, if you've truly settled, or if the claim is still valid and viable. But that is a trick that they're using more and more often. And as you said, people are scared after an accident, and we live in a place where public transportation isn't easy to find. Most people live paycheck to paycheck. Their car is their only way to get that paycheck. Mm-hmm. And when their car is damaged and their body's damaged, it's so scary. And I completely understand and empathize with that. And unfortunately, the insurance companies are preying on that and hoping that, $2,000 in your account today, that sounds like a lot of money, but you might end up with a $10,000 hospital bill that you still have to pay with that $2,000. Mm-hmm. And that's always the fear and the kind of sinking feeling in my gut when I get those calls, is I hope that it's not too late.
Have you actually had to reverse one where it's like, hey, this is malicious?
Yes. I actually have one right now where I'm working on that. My client has a brain injury, and she allegedly settled her claim while in the hospital getting diagnosed with that brain injury. So I'm arguing with the insurance company that that's not a valid settlement. She could not understand the terms of the agreement that she was entering into. Mm-hmm. So we'll see where that goes. But, we're always willing to try to fight the good fight. Right.
And then, you mentioned the different parts and pieces of the personal injury. Can you break that down a little further?
Absolutely. So the big one is going to be your bodily injury claim. That's going to be your medical expenses, pain and suffering, lost wages, and also if you're seriously injured and have a spouse or children whose relationship is affected by your injuries, that's called a loss of consortium claim. So those are the big components of the bodily injury claim. Arizona is not a state with a multiplier. I hear that all the time. Oh, I'm supposed to get 3 times medical. Unfortunately, that's not the case in Arizona. It's based on those components and the length of time you treat, how your life was affected, and again, the total medical expenses. Then you've got the property damage portion. Property damage is a very broad category. Obviously, it's your vehicle. It's your rental car. It's, if you don't get a rental car, loss of use of having a vehicle, diminished value to your vehicle if it's able to be repaired. Inherently, it's lost value because it's been in an accident. Someone's going to pay you less money if you were to go sell that vehicle. Also, personal property, which includes things like your cell phone, eyeglasses, also pets. If your pet's in an accident with you, they're considered personal property. So if you have to take them to the vet, that vet bill can be part of it. And then finally, there's medical payments coverage, which is no fault. So even if you're at fault and you incur some medical bills, your medical payments coverage can pay some of that if you have that on your policy.
I said, wow, because anytime she says a dog, I'm a new dog mom. She's a dog, cat, animal lover, and just protector, obsessed. So now I share that passion. I just only wish I started sooner. But that said, have you ever had a client where the dog was actually like in the vehicle and then they got hurt?
Yeah, absolutely. We handle that.
Guys, buckle them in.
Seriously, they're our family. But yeah, we do have cases where the pet is injured, and we fight to get those vet bills paid. In addition to all of the fear that you already have involved in an accident, when your pet, who is often your family, your
My
other
baby
child,
boy.
yes, and an unexpected vet bill, which we all know are astronomical, that can really put somebody back significantly. So we do try to handle those as well.
In the events of car accidents, I think, like you said, it can be so challenging, difficult, but really it's so profound that, first of all, not everyone makes it. Let's just start there. And then there's some where their life's not the same. And obviously you're on the side where you get to protect that, because how much you can't put a value on someone's, like pain or the way they live for the rest of their life. But also I just, with the injuries that are sustained, I mean, you see it from like small accidents causing big injuries. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes it's bigger accidents and somehow their body was okay. And I think people have this misconception of like that the car doesn't look very damaged, therefore you're not hurt. And then the issue that I try to avoid in having you here and educating, consumers or our community is, it's better to just get looked at, because if you come to you when it's too late, it's too late, right? I mean, have you seen that? Like where it's like, yeah, minor damage, but the frame is not underneath and you can't see it.
All the time. We handle cases with $0 property damage sometimes, and it's all about your body is built the way it's built, and Arizona is an eggshell state. So essentially what that means is if you are more susceptible to injury for whatever reason, your age, prior injuries, whatever it might be, the defendant, the person who hit you, is responsible for putting you back to pre-accident status or as close as they can get to it. So there is, as much as the insurance companies want to shove this down our throats, there really is no correlation between the dollar amount of property damage versus the physical impact somebody can have. There are thousands of studies that show that. And there's so many factors. How were you turned at the time? I had one mom in a parking lot accident, and the insurance company was saying there's no way she has herniated discs from this accident. But it was based on how she was positioned. Her car was parked. She was twisting behind to pick up something one of her kids had dropped. And so she was in a full twist when she was hit. And again, $0 of property damage, but that threw her back out and significantly impacted her. And we were able to get a very good settlement for her once the mechanism of the injury was explained.
Right. And then some of the basic things, injuries, I know you work with some of the best doctors, but like throughout your career, has it always been the whiplash that you see most common in these things, or?
Whiplash is definitely the number one symptom that we have, but stemming from that can be things like chronic headaches, migraines, fatigue. We're seeing a lot more people acknowledging the PTSD after an accident, and we work with some great trauma counselors for that. Frankly, I wish I had done that after a bad accident I was in. And we see a lot of, extremities too, which means your arms, your legs. You see knees that hit the dashboard. You see shoulders that get injured by, the bucket seats or hitting the side of your car. We've got a lot of things like tinnitus, which is the ringing in your ears from clenching so hard when you get hit. So you see a lot of different myriad symptoms that people experience after an accident. And it's our job to try to find the best fit of a doctor for them to get them, again, better, or at least as close to better as we can make them.
And with the PTSD that you're talking about, isn't it true, like, I don't know the math or the time frame, like 1 to 6 months, I'm not sure. Justin fact check it. But when they do have PTSD and they're overcorrecting and they're nervous, sometimes they cause the accident, and then they're involved in one to two or more within that time frame because they didn't have exposure therapy or anything like that to help cope being back on the road.
Absolutely, yeah. And you see people doing avoidance behaviors all the time too, where they're driving farther than they would normally because they're avoiding that intersection that they would typically go through, or they're more fatigued on the road when they're driving because they're having nightmares. You see the kind of the myriad of effects that happen as a result of not addressing the PTSD after an accident. And it doesn't have to be, a rollover accident or something like that to give you PTSD. The most often that I have people who come to me with PTSD after an accident is honestly a rear end unexpected impact when they're stopped at a light, because it does come out of nowhere. And a lot of times people don't understand why that impact is causing them so much pain and so much hardship. And again, the myriad of effects that can happen after, where you've got that fear of your livelihood and everything else, all that added stress, that
That's
just
true.
Hyper fixation on the accident that can result in even more of an impact than initially anticipated.
And how about the minors, the children? Like, how do parents best protect them to make sure? Because sometimes they can't really articulate what they're going through, but maybe they're coming home, and not doing their homework. What are some of the advice for that? How do you care for them?
I absolutely think that everyone should be checked out after an accident, but parents should need to be taking their kids in for an evaluation after an accident, at least to your primary care pediatrician. But I think imaging is great. And if you are noticing that your kid's physically fine, but showing emotional distress in whatever way after an accident, then you need to get them to a trauma counselor to at least get evaluated. Kids internalize things. We all know teenagers aren't the best at communicating. I know I wasn't. And it can happen with even kids as young as like 3 or 4. They can have nightmares. They can lash out when being put into the car. And you just need to, as a parent, be cognizant of that and then articulate that to the doctors and to your attorney to make sure that you're getting the resources you need to get the care for your children that they need.
And how about pregnant women? There's pregnant women, and then there's women that have and this happened to us. So there's like where it's like they're at the last straw possible of possibly having a baby, like insemination wise, and then they get in a wreck, like things like that. Like,
so obviously, first, we hope that the baby's okay. And obviously, a pregnant woman has to go to the ER and be evaluated for that. Assuming that the baby is okay, the claim for that, even though we have a 2-year statute of limitations in Arizona, after an accident, the claim for that can go on for the baby if they were injured and we don't know it until the baby's born. Children have until 2 years after they turn 18 for the statute. So again, just constant monitoring of your children, making sure that they're hitting the milestones that they need to be hitting. If unfortunately something does happen to the unborn baby, then that's a whole separate claim, a wrongful death claim, and the emotional impact of that on the mother, obviously, it's its own whole claim as well, and loss of consortium for the father for not having that relationship with the child.
Well, and then can it affect delivery as well? Like if it's a natural birth versus C-section?
Absolutely, and that comes down to the doctor's evaluation. So in any case, we have to rely on what the doctor says, which is why it's so important to get the right care and see somebody who knows what's needed to give the causation statements and opinions for a personal injury case to make sure that you're getting that compensation. If the doctor doesn't say it's related, we can't claim it. So that's why it's really important to make sure you're talking to your doctors about what happened to you so that they're giving that opinion that, yes, because of complications from abdominal trauma due to the seatbelt from the accident or due to the steering wheel, the baby had to be delivered through C-section or the baby had, dystopia of the shoulder or something.
Anything really. I mean, that pelvic floor area.
Yeah.
Men, I want you, Amara, attorney Amara, to please give them the right to be okay to go get looked at. And I'll tell you,
Absolutely.
you know, because it's like I'm my culture too, like Filipino men, and they're just like, oh, I'm fine. And then it's like becomes an issue later when it's too late. All you needed to do was speak up then and not feel bad that, yeah, you actually are her and you actually do have PTSD. It's okay. It doesn't make you less of a person.
Absolutely. And it can, again, have ripple impacts across your relationships. It can affect your job performance if you're testier at work. And we see the same thing, that men tend to be more reluctant to talk about their feelings and go to trauma therapy. But it is, I think it's up to the attorney in part and the doctors to educate the claimant on their right to get treatment and the fact that it's a no judgment zone. Purely just get the help that you need. Let somebody else pay for it who's responsible for putting you in this situation. And that way, if you're addressing it earlier on, you're more likely to have fewer issues down the road, because trauma can manifest itself in years in various ways. And so addressing it early on, make sure that you're getting better and it's not having those ripple impacts across the rest of your life with work, family, friends, relationships. And
brain bleed, right? People don't really talk about that, but and I'm sure you've had it where it's like it doesn't show up for 8 months. And then, all of a sudden you think you're okay and then you're blurry vision or slurring your words. Have you had that?
Yeah, we have seen that, and it's awful, and it's so scary when it happens to our clients. And again, it's about getting into the right doctors, getting the right medical opinion, making sure that correlation back to the accident is happening, and again, seeing the right doctors so that you get the coping mechanisms and treatment to address those issues. The number one thing, regardless of payment or anything that happens from this accident, is getting better. We have this one body and this one life, and we have to take care of it.
Yeah. There's no clone, guys. There's no clone.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, I don't want to be here for that. Okay, Amara. The impact of a car, or when that happens, like, obviously take us from a 5 mile to 45 to whatever. Like, what's the core difference there? And like, how does that impact travel? Because it's the car and then your body. And you just said it, depending on if you're sitting, slouching, expecting it is also another thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like, talk about how that impact does travel from the car to someone's body.
Yeah, so obviously, the car is meant to protect you as best as it can, and it has impact absorption. But unfortunately, when a car is hit, the absorption is designed to travel through the vehicle, and ultimately it goes through the occupants who are seated and in contact with the vehicle. If you are, everyone knows, the drunk driver who's not tensed up tends to be the one to walk away from things because they're relaxed. When you know it's coming and you're tense, your body internalizes the damage even more because your muscles are already engaged, and that just, it puts pressure on your joints and on your spine, and it creates this ripple effect throughout your body. More likely to have headaches afterwards, more likely to have tinnitus, jaw pain when you're tensed up. Also, the area of impact to your vehicle is really going to matter. A rear end accident, that ripple effect through the vehicle is different than a front facing impact, and certainly a side impact is going to have a different jolting and jerking effect on your body. And so that's part of why it's really important to explain to your doctors what happened in your accident, so they understand why your injuries are reporting the way that they are.
And then, the most common are rear end, right? But if you could please break some of that down. So you have the rear end, the side by side, how that's different, he said, she said, and then the left hand turns, which is to me the scariest. Because I know you know how to break that down.
Yeah, so rear end is the most common, especially in Arizona. You're just stopped at a light and somebody isn't paying attention. They're on their phone or whatever, and they just slam into the back of you. Oftentimes, that also results in you getting pushed forward into another vehicle. When that happens, it's important to make sure that you're getting all of the information from everybody. If you are pushed into somebody, make sure you're getting them to acknowledge that you were pushed into them, not that you hit them first. And it's important to always call the police regardless of what type of accident you're in. If you are in a side swipe accident, which is when you're driving side by side and somebody just either merges into you or isn't paying attention and kind of swerves into you, whatever happens, it's very important if anybody stays around, try to get some witness information to verify.
Dash cam,
if you've got it, is amazing. Also, Arizona is a single party consent recording state. So if you turn on your cell phone and record the other driver admitting that they weren't paying attention and swerved into your lane, that's gold as well. That actually happened to my husband, and the insurance company tried to say that they swerved into each other, but because he had that audio, we were able to prove it. And then T-bone accidents. Often they can come down to a light dispute. So again, it's important to make sure that if you had the green light or if you had the green turn arrow, that you are getting whoever is around who's independent from you, not somebody else in your car. If there's an independent witness who doesn't know you from Adam, get their information. If there's cameras around, try to see if those businesses will let you film or get a copy of the video of the intersection. A lot of people think that there's video of every intersection in Phoenix because we've got those little traffic cams. Mm-hmm. Those aren't recording. Those are just monitoring live traffic situations. So that's, it's hard for people to understand that there's not video everywhere.
Just get a dash cam. We give it away. It's $99 on Amazon. We'll share it here.
Dash cams are a huge help, for sure.
I have my own feelings about our freeway situation. I want to ask if you do, because I feel like we have way too many wrong way traffic accidents.
We do. We're, I think, number 2 in the country now. We were number 1 for a while.
It's not right.
It's wild. I think.
Why do you think that is? Because of how they placed it with a little sign, "Do not enter."
It's partially that. I think that, our signage is terrible. I also think that I know that we have one of the highest numbers of DUIs in the country. And so
guys, we got to do better.
Are, driving while drunk and not paying, not understanding.
Why?
I think a lot of that has to do with our lack of public transit, unfortunately. As available as Uber is, you don't see as much drunk driving in places like Boston or New York because people take the public transportation when they go out to bars. So we gotta do something better in Phoenix about the public transit. It can't take an hour and a half from Tempe to downtown.
Do you think the light rail helped, or?
Unfortunately,
how do you feel about that? No, not really?
No.
Because it's still slow?
It's so slow, yeah. And it's so limited in where it goes, and it's too hot in the summer to walk anywhere, so.
TBI is becoming a thing in personal injury. I mean, obviously it's been for a while for, very quality boutique firms. I think when you lead with, I want to get the client, medically better first, you kind of explore all that. But can you please expand on TBI, what it even is? How do you detect it? What are the signs?
Absolutely. It is so important. Our brain is our central system of our bodies. We can do a lot without the rest of our limbs, but our brain is what allows us to be who we are. So a TBI is a traumatic brain injury. It can vary in terms of intensity. The most severe when you're, a vegetable basically, and you have to relearn how to speak, talk, walk, move, anything. But there's a lot of people after an accident have mild TBIs. Our brain is this, 5 to 8 pounds of muscle in our head that is encased in a skull with a lot of liquid around it. It's not touching the skull. So when we get in an accident, no matter how severe, our brain's sloshing around in there. And if it sloshes too hard, it's going to hit our thick skulls and it's going to bruise. And that's really what a brain injury is. It's a bruise on the brain. And depending on where your brain sloshes and gets bruised, it affects different areas of your capacity. Be that memory or speech or just
stuff.
Giving you headaches.
Mood disorder stuff.
Yeah, making you more irritable. So we always ask our clients about that. And, it is something that you have to get checked out. Your doctor should be doing evaluations on. And if you do have a TBI of any degree, there are doctors out there who will help you with either medication to manage it, or there are There are various vestibular rehabilitations to get you back to your brain functioning again and firing those synapses that it needs to be firing to get you back to who you were before. You see cognitive processing delays. Again, your brain's bruised and healing, so it's focusing its energy on the healing and not processing information the way that you normally would.
And then the permanent effects of that sounds scary.
Can be extremely scary.
And then from the time of impact, there's this thing where people don't feel much until like the third or so day.
Adrenaline is a hell of a drug.
I mean, like it's a thing though. It's like I was fine, and then all of a sudden my body's yelling, telling me I'm hurt here, here, here. So do you suggest in those moments to like not take muscle relaxers or pain medicine, to like not allow your body to tell you, hey, like I'm actually hurting here and here and here?
If you're having pain, go to the doctor.
Yeah, of course.
At the end of the day, however I'm not a big pain pill fan. I just don't think. I think
no one is. I mean, in our industry, when I meant like ibuprofen.
Yeah.
Do you try to be like, okay, I may not take it yet, just so I could tell Amara, hey, like, and the doctor, like, I'm hurting here. Because I know the doctors you work with, they don't prescribe pain medicine. No one does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not something we want to start here in Arizona.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. That was a problem about 15 years ago, and thankfully we've gotten it under control, I feel like. There are different schools of thought on it. I personally would take some ibuprofen. When I was in an accident, I did, because it does help with swelling and things. But I also had people around me where I was saying, hey, I'm in this much pain. This is really unbearable. And so I had people who could, talk to my doctors with me and say, this is how bad things were. But yeah, at the end of the day, you have to manage your pain and get through your days as best as you can. And if you can't get in to see your doctor for a day or 2 or 3 and you can't sleep, take some melatonin to help you sleep, take some ibuprofen to take the edge off, and then get seen as quickly as you can.
Yeah. Biggest thing is advocate for yourself and see the doctor.
Yes.
But all these things we just talked about. I mean, but what happens when they don't have insurance? And talk about what kind of insurance. And people are like, I'm fully covered. And then it's like our hearts are bleeding because we can't help.
Yeah. Every time I hear someone say, but I was fully covered, it breaks my heart. Because full coverage in Arizona just means that you have money to pay somebody else if you injure them. It does not mean that you are covered if someone injures you or if someone who is uninsured injures you. So the types of coverage are going to be liability coverage.
Guys, listen up to this one. Please, I beg you.
Yes. Liability coverage in Arizona, the minimum that you have to have in order to drive in Arizona is going to be $25,000 per person, up to $50,000 paid out per accident. That is the most money your insurance company will ever have to pay, or the other driver's insurance will have to pay if that's the policy limit that they purchased. And it's $15,000 for property damage. Again, that's if you cause damage to the other vehicle or the person who caused damage to you. That's the minimum that they're required to have. Then there's uninsured motorist and underinsured motorist. Those are 2 separate first-party insurances is what it's called. That's your personal insurance that you purchase in addition to the minimum amount that you're required to have to drive. I highly recommend that everyone carry both. If you can only afford for some reason to carry one, carry uninsured motorist, because that means that you're at least protected if the person who hits you did not have insurance or takes off, or whatever. Uninsured motorist coverage protects you when the other driver either can't be found because they fled the scene or didn't carry insurance on their vehicle. Underinsured motorist protects you if your injuries exceed that the person who caused you injuries damage or limits, policy limits. So if they did only carry a $25,000 limit and you have $30,000 in bills, that's where your underinsured motorist coverage can kick in. Also, if you have property damage coverage, again, that's for the other vehicle. You must carry collision coverage if you want your vehicle to be able to be repaired if the other person did not have insurance or didn't have enough insurance on the property damage side. And then there's also medical payments coverage. It's a great thing to have. It's bonus coverage. It pays
even when it's your fault, right?
It pays even when it's your fault, and you can get it, for up to however high you want. But $5,000 is what I would say, because that's free money in Arizona if you carry it, and it's usually pretty cheap to add to your policy.
And then, do you feel the same way as I do with first party rental, so you can get back on your feet?
Yeah, if you don't have an extra car in your household, then definitely have rental coverage, because that, again, as I've said several times, at the end of the day, it's hard to get around in Phoenix without a car. So rental coverage is there to give you a rental car while you are without a vehicle. And make sure you're asking your insurance agent what coverages you need, and it should be a conversation about what you have asset-wise, so you're properly protected, and what options you have if you are in an accident. So again, if you don't have a backup vehicle that you can use, you should be talking to your insurance adjuster about rental coverage.
Right. And there's a few really good insurance brokers here in town. So if you need a referral, call us.
Yes.
And then on the and UIM, they're considered benefits, not claims, right?
No,
Is that
it's
how
still
that
a
works?
claim.
It's still a claim.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like if they're not at fault and they use it, it doesn't make their coverage go up.
Correct. There is an Arizona state law that says that your insurance rates cannot go up if you're not 51% or more at fault for the accident.
Okay.
So if you didn't cause it, your insurance company can't harm you for using the coverage for the benefit that you've paid for with them.
My burning question is, what is one of the proudest cases that you were able to help someone in?
It's a case that is still ongoing for me, but it sits with me. I talk to this family still almost at least once a week. I've driven up to see them, but drunk driver caused a horrific accident, injured the whole family, including a 6-year-old boy and a 1-month-old girl and mom and dad. And we were able to track down a lot of coverage from the various establishments that overserved this gentleman who caused the accident, and get them as much as we could. There's never any amount of money to make them
Whole.
Anywhere near whole, but at least we were able to get something, because of course the person who hit them was uninsured. But
It's always that way.
The one good thing that man did that day, if he was going to drink anywhere, is he drank everywhere. And so we were able to track down 3 different bars that he was drinking at before the accident, and get money from each of them to get some compensation for the family at least.
You talked about overserving, and there's is it Dram Shop?
Yes, Dram Shop.
And can you share what that is so we can educate them?
Absolutely. So in Arizona, if you are drinking at a bar or even at someone's house, if they overserve you and you leave obviously intoxicated, doesn't mean that you leave at 0.09 blood alcohol level, but obviously intoxicated, slurring your words, falling down, any lay person could tell that you were overserved. Then they're liable for any future damage you cause while driving, as a result of them serving you the alcohol. And then where do you find the insurance to file a claim against? The house insurance? So it would be against the bar or the homeowner if they were drinking at someone's home. The same way with the dog bites, right? Yes, dog bites are going to be homeowners insurance. Sometimes some people have it on renters insurance as well, but that's pretty rare. And then lastly, on the wrongful death, which is the worst situation possible. A lot of people don't know about that. They'll do a car wash or GoFundMe. They don't know. And also those who know or a little bit about it, they think it's just simply and only car accident. So please share that. Yeah, so wrongful death can happen, it's unfortunately always unexpected, but it can happen from car accidents. If you do a slip and fall and somebody hits their head and unfortunately breaks their skull open, that could happen. A dog bite, technically a dog could unfortunately kill you. So a wrongful death claim can be brought against whoever's responsible. The wrongful death claim belongs to the surviving relative, which is defined by Arizona statute, depending on if you're married or have kids and things like that. So that's where an attorney has to get involved to figure out who the actual people who can bring the claim are. And then there's a separate survivorship action. So if you are injured, but you're in the hospital for several days before you unfortunately pass away or your loved one passes away, there is a claim that can be made for those medical expenses while you survived during that, unfortunate time. So having an attorney who understands all of that and can explore every avenue of recovery and also knows how to negotiate those medical bills, because the last thing you want to do is, you've lost somebody dear to you, is pay all of that money to a hospital.
And, people really, again, I only know because I've been working with all of you guys, but like negotiating those medical bills, because oftentimes they're like, I got it under control. The adjusters will help me. I'll just pay the bills. But having representation, that's one of the benefits, right?
Absolutely. And there are a lot of tools in the law that we know, either through statute or case law, that we can utilize to negotiate the best possible settlement. And also to, sometimes there are predatory companies out there that are asserting that they're entitled to payment when they actually aren't. Their lien isn't valid for whatever reason, or they don't actually meet the statutory definition to be able to claim the funds back. And so we can utilize that to handle the debt and make sure that everything that has to be paid is paid, so that you're walking away with less headaches, less stress. Medical debt is the number one thing that causes Americans to go bankrupt. So making sure that we're addressing all of that so that headache and fear is gone for the client.
And then minors who get in like catastrophic type accidents, really bad accidents, and they're minors. So how do you protect their interest?
Yeah, so anytime a minor is involved in an accident, a court has to approve the settlement. If the settlement is over $10,000, it has to go into either a conservatorship, where the court actually oversees the minor's funds until they're 18, or
sometimes they're millions of dollars.
Sometimes it can be millions, or into an annuity. So if the minor is getting a significant sum of money, in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, the court's going to require that it be invested into an annuity contract, which is where it's going to be developing a lot more interest over the course of the minor's life. And that's where you have to talk to somebody specialized in structured settlements to really make sure that that's getting set up correctly. But that all ultimately goes through the court. And at least in our office, we handle all of that for our clients.
And I'll just say this before we wrap it up. And, boutique quality firms like yours, when people present cases to you, I know for a fact, like, you don't just look at it, just what they say, that you look around the entire situation. Was the city involved in this? Was the construction people involved? And, obviously people don't think that, it's just a regular rear end case, but you guys consider everything.
Yeah, we have to. And the reason why you really have to, as an attorney, look at all of the surrounding circumstances is, you mentioned government involvement of some sort, construction or, whatever it might be, a lights out. Maybe there's, a claim against the state or the government that can be made or has to be made. And in Arizona, that's only a 180-day statute. So that means that you have to do it perfectly. And when I mean perfectly, that's what the statute says. You cannot get anything wrong when you're presenting that claim.
So a lot of people, I notice there's firms that won't touch NOCs. Is it because it's a little bit more difficult? But these people need help. Absolutely. It is. It's more difficult, and it's frankly, it's risky for an attorney, because if you miss it or you mess it up, then you have a claim against your attorney for not pursuing the right claim or for not doing the claim correctly. And you take those. We do take those, yeah. And in closing, because you're going to have to come back here, because as you can see, I could just keep asking questions. I've been waiting for this moment. I really love allowing other people to learn more about this so they can help themselves and protect themselves. There's obviously a lot of personal injury attorneys in town. Mm-hmm. Why should people choose you at Amara and Associates?
I'd be honored if you choose me as your attorney because I really do care, and I want to do what's right by my clients. I don't do what a lot of attorneys do, where they try to tell you exactly which doctor to go to and why. If you have a doctor that you've been seeing for a really long time, they're going to be in the best position to understand what your new symptoms are and what your aggravation of your existing condition is. We take a holistic approach to the case. We're going to handle your property damage for free. We don't increase our fees if we have to litigate your case. We don't charge a file setup fee. We don't nickel and dime our clients with postage, copies, things like that. We just want to do what's right by our clients, get them better, and make sure that at the end of the day, they're walking away as whole as we can make them.
There you go. And how can they get a hold of you?
So you can get a hold of me by calling me, 623-471-8881, or through our website, which is azinjuryattorney.com.
There you go. Till next time.
Till next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.